Hello, this is Rod Whyte of Mining Network, and my guest today is Campbell Smyth. Campbell is the chairman of Norseman Silver. But what's important about it is that I've known Campbell since he graduated from university and started working in the city in 1994. And for all of these years, he's managed money and he's invested in mining companies, but he's never taken the responsibility on to become an executive chairman of an exploration stock. And he has done this now, and there's a number of well-known people in the city are supporting him, hoping that he makes a success rather than fails like so many others. But Norseman Silver is a rare beast. It's a silver exploration company with the silver in secure jurisdictions. And I'm particularly impressed that they have a significant project in Argentina where heroes of mine like Ross Beatty have invested multi-millions, and I believe that Argentina is going to be the leading emerging silver producing region. And if you believe that, then you simply want to have a ticket in the lottery just in case, because the success of others can dramatically improve people's perception of your own company. So Campbell, I've done my usual introduction, but why did you decide, instead of being a fund manager, to actually take responsibility for development of a company yourself?
There are many reasons why we get involved in these junior companies, Rod. The usual one is because we have a large shareholding in it and disagree with the current management and then have to take it over and then restart it, which is precisely the origins of this one. An old friend of mine and I had an investment in the previous incarnation of Norseman, and the management were not fulfilling what we wanted, and we removed them as directors and decided to make a new start of the company. So we rolled it back 10 for 1. John Barr and I went on the board and we've refinanced it, and then as John's health deteriorated, I needed to find a new CEO, and so I looked for an old friend, Sean Hurd, who I've worked with for 20 years.
Yep.
And Sean has got great contacts and experience in Argentina and South America. He's built several companies down there with Grosser Group, and he has tremendous experience in both finding people and finding deposits, and has been someone who's been a great friend for many years. When we began the process, Norseman was without a project, and so I was looking for ideally a project in a safe jurisdiction, because in that time of the market, North America was very much in vogue and South America was more or less unappreciated, and as was Africa, particularly on the TSX. So Sean and I were looking for projects that presented a jurisdiction that investors liked, in which you could raise money on, and also gave us an advanced entry into the silver space. Enter Kyla Hardy. I had a relationship with Kyla already through Cloudbreak, because I was actually the vendor of the Cloudbreak company, and I've had an alliance with Kyla for many years over various projects we've done together. So we discussed what the best strategy for Norseman was, and he had a series of projects in BC through Cloudbreak, which he had prospected himself for years. Kyla's history is actually quite interesting. The family is a logging family. They've settled in Smithers and became drillers, loggers, and project developers in the last 50 years, and they have been instrumental of the development of Smithers. So Kyla's got a great knowledge of the area, has prospected there personally, and is very comfortable with operating and has great contacts there. What I was attracted to was Cronin came with this really strong technical team, Rory Kuthlogu,
yes,
and with our new geologist Rene Victorino as part of it. So Cronin had the expertise I needed, which was technical, corporate, and also projects. So it became a very easy thing to do to move the relationship to a joint venture, where Norseman took on several of the Cloudbreak projects in joint venture, and they became the key projects for Norseman to raise money on. At that time, we had raised about $3 million to fund the development and exploration of the projects in BC, which I'll just go briefly through them. The first one was Silver Vista. These are all in the porphyry belt around Smithers and occur as vein systems, which the technical term is red bed copper deposits.
Yep.
Typically they're small deposits but high grade. If you could find something in the order of 20 million tonnes, that would be an economic mine.
Because the infrastructure is
The infrastructure and grade and metallurgy of the projects, but we'd have to find something of that order of magnitude to make a good mine. In that end of the world, obviously porphyries are the big deposits. What we have just going through our projects is Caribou, which is essentially a porphyry system, a big intrusive. Ironically, actually, that one became interesting because Kyler, through his own prospecting, managed to find the high grade on the actual project through a complete accident when he fell over the cliff, and managed to find the vein that's actually been sampled for our project through complete personal accident. So I do like that story.
Yeah. So he confirms it.
That is a complex project because it's helicopter access and it will be expensive. So what we are essentially doing with that is advancing it and bringing it to a stage where it's a drill-ready target for a mid-cap to take on, because it's essentially a very big target. So more easily accessible for us as a junior was Silver Switchback, because as the name suggests, it's an old logging road. So the high grades that we've reported on Switchback, which goes up to 8% copper and 600 grams a tonne silver, has all been sampled through the old logging roads and just exposed outcrop. So what we needed to do on that project was do an IP survey, follow up the mineralization that had been previously discovered, and see if we could advance it to a drill target. And so that's what the Summers program is about. Silver Vista was the most advanced of the projects out of Cloudbreak that I mentioned. We conducted a drill program last year and we extended the known mineralization. It's not yielded a project that we want to take into further development yet, but we're conducting more exploration this summer on it. The last BC project, Moon, is another big porphyry intrusive, and we will be doing some initial reconnaissance on that. But what that does lead us into is Argentina, which is where we believe Norseman will be focusing.
Wait a second, because what's also important is that by working with Kyler and Cronin, you have got very supportive, well-connected shareholders.
Exactly. Cloudbreak holds 12% of the company through the joint ventures that we've done with it, and they supply the technical team, the corporate management, and have been helpful in the financing as well. So it's been a good relationship where we have assisted each other, and I'm a large shareholder of Cloudbreak personally. So Kyler and I have worked together on many things, and I think he's going to make a great success of Cloudbreak. Back to where that leads us, we realised very quickly that BC was seasonally affected. So after say September, October, you couldn't work anymore, and so given the news flow of the company, we needed to look for a Southern Hemisphere based project. I really have always liked Argentina. It's been an interest of mine. I've been there 4 times. I've invested in many companies there through funds, and personally I've helped raise capital for companies like Exeter Resources, Extore, Andean Mining, and obviously EMA Exploration. There was a supergiant discovery which I was happily involved in the early 2000s, where EMA had discovered the Navidad Silver Project. And Navidad is a fascinating system because there's nothing else like it in the area. It's 600 million ounces of silver equivalent. It's a really big lead, silver, copper, zinc structure where really it exists on a big crustal break, and it's one of these areas where no one had found that sort of geology before in this part of the world. It became the subject of a property lawsuit, and then afterwards was taken over by Pan American Silver for effectively $1 an ounce in the ground in the bear market, so $600 million. And then, of course...
and that's one of the best deals that I have seen.
Pan American bought...
It's going to make a shed full.
They bought one of the world's best silver projects for a song.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the province of Chubut also had complications because it had a mining ban on open pit mining. Navidad couldn't be permitted, So Pan American resigned itself to waiting it out, and 10 years later, I mean, I don't want to jump the gun here, but it looks like the province of Djibouti is going to change its policy. So we've heard some really good news on permitting there. Anyway, happily, we're not in Djibouti, we're in Rio Negro, but Djibouti affects everything we do because obviously market sentiment drives the ability to raise money, and Argentina became a place where people really were avoiding because of Djibouti. Rio Negro is a different kettle of fish because it's an oil and gas province. Most of the revenue comes from oil and a small amount from mining. This is still very much Patagonian pampas. It's flat-lying country. Just anecdotally, it looks like you're going into old Nevada. You know, I mean, Sean gives the sort of simile that it's like entering Nevada 50 years ago. You can pick up property, you can get things permitted, you can drive to a property, it's not seasonally affected, and there's the possibility of making a giant discovery. Geologically, it's interesting to me because there's a very large structure in the province called the Gas-Tree Fault, which gives rise to most of the systems that have been mineralized in the province. Navidad actually hangs off this fault, and so does the Taquetren million-ounce gold silver epithermal system as well. So we know we're in the right part of Patagonia because our property is directly on top of this structure. What we've observed on our project is essentially an old caldera system, and
it's hydrothermal, isn't it?
And subsequent events around the big fault are epithermal in nature. So we have vein systems that we've discovered, which is what the recent press release you will have seen on Norseman is. So we've discovered one vein system called Vetajuan, which is our most recent news we've published.
That was the high-grade copper.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I know this province for being gold and silver rich. I did not expect copper, and this is just surface sampling. What I always like to say is that, I mean, we have a big advantage of having a really big property, but we also have a negative problem with having a really big property. It's going to be a long time to find a big discovery in it. Anyway, fortunately, our relationship with our geologist Daniel Bassondri is extremely good, and Daniel's been prospecting this area for years. And
he was associated with one of the big discoveries, wasn't he?
Daniel is the original geologist that discovered Navidad, and he's also made several other discoveries in the area, including the blue sky uranium deposit in Rio Negro. So Daniel is an ore finder, and he's a really interesting guy, and he's got great relationships with the Rio Negro provincial government. So he's essential to our team, and we've really valued his expertise there. We have found a new vein system on the property, which was previously unknown in the last few weeks, and sampled it and published the results to market. In addition, we have also uncovered another vein system nearby, which is about 2 kilometres away, which is similar in size. And what we've mapped on surface so far is 300 metres of veins in strike length, and the veins extend up to 2 metres in width. So it appears like there's parallel structures along a caldera rim, which are epithermal events, and we are feeling that this could lead to potentially a drill target of size. So I'm very interested that it's copper though. I mean, I was expecting gold and silver in this area, but not copper. So we might have something interesting here.
I think it's polymetallic, but the point is, when you're in an epithermal system, the most important thing is to identify what you're in, because the strike lengths in epithermals can be 20 or 30 kilometres, so 300 metres is a start.
It's just the initial phase of an exploration program. We have regional geology to do. We have structural geology. We have IP to do on the veins, and we've got to basically do surface work. So in the next few months, we'll have hand trenching, and then we'll go to mechanical trenching, and then we'll go to drilling. And once the winter's finished, and I expect to be delivering results for this into the third quarter.
Yeah, I think it's also important is that you've got one of the most important person in silver, Ross Beatty, with Pan American Silver, they're definitely going to be developing a project And this is going to be very good to be happening in the background while you're beavering away doing your exploration. It'll draw attention to Patagonia, will it not?
What we've noticed is all the majors are clambering back into Argentina. They've avoided it for 10 years because of the politics. Argentina has become investable again, and all the majors are looking to get back into it. So it's fortuitous that we've managed to find a project of quality in the right time frame for the right price before the majors came back in. So what we're looking to do is double the size of our property, which is currently 284 kilometres square in size. So we'll control nearly 500 square kilometres before we're finished. This will all be along the main structural fault in the area, and this is the regional geology which the majors are looking for. So if Pan American can get to the stage where it can progress Navidad, they'll be looking for additional exploration projects, and we'd be very interested in working with them.
Well, I think it's given that this is going to happen, because Beatty's done the right thing by Argentina. He's not forced anything, he's not bribed anybody, and I think he deserves the right to build one of the world's most important new silver mines.
Yeah.
Well, success by Pan American is going to be very beneficial to Patagonia Gold and Norseman Silver.
I mean, people have forgotten just how rich the systems in this part of the world are. I mean, I've had some considerable success investing in this area with some of these companies, and they've made many discoveries of 1 to 20 million ounces in size. So a lot of the big discoveries in the market have been in this part of the world.
I think it's also important that you're Australian and you're not restricted by the Vancouver mentality of finding things at home.
I have to say, we've been stuck in Australia for 2 years, and it's a great pleasure to get out and see London again. It's been quite surreal. I mean, we have been very restricted in Australia to investing in Australia. The Australian market typically doesn't do South America, so working in a Canadian company with Canadian people on the South American target, it's been quite interesting.
Yeah, I think it's very relevant. And
but one of the things I want to actually go back to, Rod, is because we've got seasonality in both hemispheres, it's very important to keep work programs going in both. So we basically finished with Argentina shortly, we roll straight back into BC, and the aim is to deliver a consistent news flow to the market year round. So we're financed in the last 2 months. We're fully funded for all our programs. We raised flow through at Christmas, and we did a small hard dollar raising in the last few weeks, and we're fully funded for the 2022 season. So currently Norseman Silver has 57 million shares out at 21 cents.
It's a 12 million capitalisation with 2 million cash.
2 million cash and a warrant position of 17 million warrants at an average strike price of 35 cents. So if we get a good run on the stock, the next financing will be taken care of by warrants. So it's a good leverage play for someone looking to get exposure to Argentina in an area where it's prospective, and with a team that have got local knowledge and have got a track record of delivery. So I'm very pleased to be working with Daniel and his team and the Cronin Capital people.
I think that sums it up. I'm a very happy shareholder, and I'm delighted to have sat down with the chairman and got further insights.
I mean, I feel that right now the stock presents an opportunity for a speculation right now, particularly. I think the things people need to be looking out for are results from the second vein system we just found. We'll be publishing those in the next month or two. Then we go straight back into the BC projects, which will be Switchback and Caribou, which as you will see in the press releases, last year we had high-grade results on both. So we have follow-up to do on that, and then we go straight back into Argentina. But we don't need to raise money, and my job is to deliver news to the market right now and get the projects moving.